Hey everyone, welcome to our next video. We are finally starting chapter 2. So let me write our section. So we're starting in 2.2, which is circles. Now some of what we'll do today does kind of cover 2.1 a little bit, but it's just kind of, it all comes together, so we just start in 2.2. So first, we're going to make sure that we can plot points. So I just want to talk about that first. So plotting points on our coordinate plane. And I mean, this really should be refresher, but in general, so we have our coordinate plane here. I'm just drawing some tick marks, and we'll have our x-axis and we have our y-axis. In quadrant 1, so we go counterclockwise to count our quadrants. So this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. In quadrant 1, we're going to see positive x's and positive y's. In quadrant 2, we'll see negative x's and positive y's. Quadrant 3, we see negative x's, negative y's. And in quadrant 4, we see positive x's, negative y's. So kind of just a quick little, showing you how to plot some points. If I plot the point, say 2, negative 1. So that's the x value of 2, so I come over to 2, and then I need to go down 1, because that's the y value. If I plot, let's say, negative 3, 5, so that's a negative 3, so that's here on my x-axis, and then I'm going to have to go up 5, so that brings me here. Something like that. So that's just plotting points. I think y'all will be okay with that. Now I'm going to introduce you to some stuff now. Let's say we have some point A, and I'm going to call this point, I'm going to say it's x1 comma y1. Then I have a point B, and let's call this one x2 comma y2. What we're going to work with is distance formula and also midpoint. So that's kind of what we're starting right now. And then we're going to connect that into circles. So if I want to find the distance between the points A and B, what we can use for this is we can make this into a triangle. And so we'll have some distance, we'll say A, and we'll have some distance B. And if we want to find the distance of C, we can use Pythagorean theorem. So that's a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. And then if you want just c, we can take the square roots. That would be square root of a squared plus b squared is equal to c. Now for our distance formula here, think about how we're going to have to get our a here. So my a is the distance from this x1 point to this x2 point, horizontal distance. So for A, I'm going to have to take x2, sorry, I don't mean for it to be like a thick, there we go. A, I'm going to have to do x2 minus x1 to get that horizontal distance. For my vertical distance, I'll call that B, I would have to do y2 minus y1 to get how far vertically. All of this coming together is what gives us the distance formula. So I'll write that for you now. So the distance formula I'll call it D for distance, and it's the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So this is the distance formula, and you will need to know this for your next test. But the point I was trying to make to you is that it's really just Pythagorean theorem. The distance formula and Pythagorean theorem are the exact same thing. They're just using different letters. Then we have something called the midpoint formula. So if I want to find the middle of these points, I'll call it MP for midpoint. You kind of just take the average of both the x's and the y's. So usually when you find the average of something, you add it together and divide by how many you have. So for us, for midpoint, we would add our x's together and then divide by 2. Basically finding the average, finding the mean, the middle, whatever you want to call it. And then for our y's, I would do the same thing. I would add them together, divide by 2. So both of these you'll need to know for your next test. That's the midpoint and the distance formula. Let's look at an example of finding these things. So given the points 5, -3, and -1, -6, find the distance between the points and the midpoint. So the first thing that I would recommend doing here, of course you should pause and make sure that you have it written down. First thing I would do is draw. So it's always good to just map out what we are dealing with. So it goes out to 6, so I'll go out to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's just a little sketch, so it doesn't need to be, amazing or anything. So I'll plot my 2 points. So I have 5, -3. It's going to be right here. So this is the point 5, -3. And then -1, -6, that's going to be right here. So I'm looking for the distance between these 2 points, and then I'm also going to have to find the midpoint between these points. So let's do the distance first. I'm going to color code a little bit. So my distance, I'm going to go ahead and write the formula. So I have x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and this will all be square rooted. And now you can decide which point you want to make your x1, y1, and which point you want to do x2, y2. So I'll do x1, y1, x2, y2. You'll get the same answer even if you had done it opposite from me. Now I'm just going to go plug everything in. So I get -1 minus 5 squared, and then -6 minus -3 squared. And this is all in the square root, but you have to simplify inside the root first. You can't just cancel stuff out. So -1 minus 5 will give me -6 and then squared. -6 minus -3 is -6 plus 3. So that's -3 squared. Oh, there we go. Simplifying further, so this is going to give me 36 plus 9, which gives me square root of 45, which can simplify further to 3 root 5. So this is my d, my distance. Next, let's go get the midpoint. So we're going to find the midpoint between these two. Now the nice thing is when you draw it out, you can kind of anticipate a little bit like where it's going to be roughly. So my midpoint, again, I'm going to write the formula first. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And I'm going to go ahead and plug all my stuff in. So I get 5 plus -1 over 2. For the y's, I get -3 plus -6 over 2. Simplifying further, I get 4 over 2, comma, -9 over 2. And this can simplify just a little bit to 2, comma, -9 over 2. And we'll just leave that here as the midpoint. And that's roughly where I thought. So 2 would be here. 9 divided by 2 is roughly like 4.5. So it's like kind of where I thought, but it's just my sketch, you know, is a little bit off. So that's fine. What you would really want to look for is if it's like way off, you know, and then we'd be like, something happened here, maybe a sign error or something. Now here's the cool stuff. What we also just found in relation to circles is the midpoint is actually the center of a circle. And we can draw a circle around the rest of it. And then my distance that I found is my diameter. So now we're going to move into talking more about circles, but what you'll see is the formula for the circle looks super duper similar to the distance formula, which is basically just Pythagorean theorem, so it's all connected together. And then also the midpoint of a circle, if you have 2 points on the outside, that would give you the center. So kind of some just connections going on here. So let's move into actually talking about circles now. So circles, a circle The real definition is the set of all points that are a fixed distance from a given point and that given point is called the center. Now this fixed distance that it's talking about, that's the radius. And so I didn't draw that on here, but we can go talk about it real quick. So half of the diameter is your radius. Half of the diameter is the radius. So let me give you the standard equation of a circle. So standard equation of a circle. And you're going to see it looks super similar to the distance formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So instead of using like x1, y1, x2, y2, I just use different letters. And so we like to say that h comma k is the center. And then you'll notice it doesn't have the square root because I left the squared on the r. So r is our radius. Sorry, I'm yawning. Oof, sorry. For example 2, let's just try to identify the radius and center if we're given a circle. So given the equation of a circle, identify the center and radius. And we'll do 2 of these. So for my first one, I have x minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared is equal to 4. And for part B, we'll do y squared is equal to 12 minus x plus 3 squared. We have another one as well, but we'll start with just these. Be careful whenever you have a plus in those parentheses. What's really happening there, so make sure you compare it to the formula. So we're saying, okay, we have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So I'm comparing my formula right now. The 2 is the h, right, because the minuses match up. Now this y, I have a plus there. Be careful. What's really happening is that this is y minus -1, and those negatives are canceling. So my k is actually -1, not +1. So just be careful there. You have to swap the sign, basically. So my center will be 2 comma -1. So h comma k. My radius, be careful that 4 is r squared. So if we want just the radius, we just want r. So it'd be the square root of 4. So that would be 2. So my radius here is 2. For b, it's just not quite in the formula, like in the form that we like, but we can just move some stuff around. So if I move the x stuff over, let's do that. So that would be x plus 3 squared plus y squared equals 12. So all I did was add the x plus 3 squared onto the other side so that it looks more like my formula. Now be careful as well with that y. What it's really saying is y minus nothing. So if you don't see anything like with the y squared like that in the parentheses, then it's just 0. But if you want to, you can maybe write it out. So my center here would be -3, 0. My radius is square root of 12, which simplifies to 2 root 3. There's also another form that you could see circles in, and it's called the general form. And it looks like this: x squared plus y squared. Oh, I need some variables, sorry. Yeah, no. X squared plus y squared plus ax, there we go, plus by plus c is equal to 0. This is another form for the circle. If you are given this and you want to identify the center and radius, you have to complete the square. And so, of course, we're going to do one like this. So part C, we're given x squared plus y squared plus 10x minus 6y plus 25 equals 0. And so my goal for this is I want it in the form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So to get that form, I have to complete the square. And make it factorable. So bear with me a little bit while I show y'all how to complete the square on something like this. So first, I'm going to group my x's together. So I have x squared plus 10x, and I want that to factor, so I'm going to leave myself a space so that I can write like what I need to add so that it would factor. Then I'm going to put my y's, so I have plus y squared minus 6y, and again, I'm going to leave a space because I need to add something there so that I can factor this. Now that 25 is kind of just in my way, so I'm going to go ahead and move it to the other side. So it's very similar to what we did originally when we completed the square in the quadratic section, but now we have to do it with x and y. So to find out what you add in there, you take your b value, which is the number in front of just the variable, not the x squared, so just the x. We divide by 2, and we square. So this would give us 5 squared, which is 25, So I need to add 25. Be careful, you got to add it to both sides. For my y's, I would do negative 6 over 2 squared, which is negative 3 squared, which is 9. So I'll add 9 to both sides. Now for my x's, like my green part, I guess, that I've been writing, this will factor into x plus 5 squared. My blue, so like my y stuff, will factor into y minus 3 squared. And then my other side of this will just become 9. So now it looks like my standard equation. So my center, you should pause and make sure you can do it yourself, but negative 5, 3. My radius is square root of 9, so 3. Alrighty, let's do some more types of examples we can see. So this is example 3. It says to write the equation of a circle with a center negative 3, 5 that passes through the point 1, comma 8. So for this one, again, I always think we should go ahead and graph whatever we're dealing with. So I have, this one goes out to 8 at the top. So let me go ahead and try to make that look nice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this will give me all that I need to plot. So negative 3, 5, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About here. Oh, it's not really. Oh, there we go. I had the eraser on. Here. So this is the point negative 3, 5. Now this is the center of the circle, so be aware of that. And then the circle passes through the point 1, 8. So it passes through this point over here. So the actual circle is going to go all the way around this center point. I'll draw it the best that I can. Won't be perfect, but you'll get the idea. And so right now, if I write my formula, so I have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Well, I know that my center is hk, so I'll put that in. So I get x minus negative 3, get y minus 5, the problem is I can't figure out my r with this. So we need to figure out a way to do this. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for this distance right here. Oh, look at that. I just said the word distance. Maybe we should use the distance formula. So I'm looking for distance between -3, 5, and 1, 8. So I'm going to find the distance between these 2 points using the distance formula. So I get I do x1, y1, and I'll do x2, y2 for these. So now I'm just plugging everything in. We'll see what I get. So I have 1 minus -3. For the y's, I have 8 minus 5. Simplifying here, so I get 1 plus 3, so that's 4. 8 minus 5, so 3. Keep going. I get 16 plus 9. Keep going. I get 25. So this means that my radius is 5. Now please be careful when we put it back into our formula. So I'm going to write it off to the side here. So x plus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared. Had all that from the center. Just needed my radius, which we just got. But be careful, it's 5 squared because the radius is just 5. And in the formula, it needs to be squared. So this will be x plus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared is equal to 25. And that is the equation of the circle. Just one more example in this section. Just showing you like different types of problems you could see. It says write the standard form of an equation of a circle. So very similar to what we just did, but maybe they're going to give us different information. With endpoints of a diameter -1, 0, and 3, 4. So this one's interesting. Let's map out what it's actually giving us and what it's asking for. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So I have -1, 0. So that's here. Let me use a different color. Y'all know I like to color code. And then 3, 4. So that's going to be up here. And it says that that's a diameter. So that is going through the whole circle. This is a diameter. What that means, this looks terrible, is that my circle is passing through these 2 points. So neither of these points are my center. So in the last example, I gave us the center and then one of the outside points. This one, they're just giving us 2 outside points. We're going to have to find the center. But this is good because it uses stuff we've been doing. So the point right in the middle is the midpoint. So my center is my midpoint. So let's go ahead and get my midpoint together. So my midpoint, I'm going to write the formula. So x1 plus x2 over 2, comma y1 plus y2 over 2. Plug in everything in. So I get -1 plus 3 over 2, comma 0 plus 4 over 2. So this gives me 2 over 2, comma 4 over 2. So 1, comma 2. And that kind of makes sense. That's pretty good for where I drew it. My circle is all lopsided, but that's all right. So this is now my center. So this is good to know. I'm going to need that for my equation of the circle. Next, we need to find my radius. So be careful here. I'm going to try to color it a little bit. The radius is just this distance here. Or you could think of it the other way, it's just this distance here. So you don't want to find the entire, like, let me try to explain what I'm saying here. If I find the distance between the 2 points they gave me, I'll be finding the diameter. That is not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the radius. So you can do that. If you find the diameter, just know that the radius is half of that. So you'll need to divide it by 2. What I'll do instead is I just found the point 1, 2 as the center. So I'm only going to find the distance between these points right here, and that'll give me the radius. So I hope that's clear what I'm doing. So my radius, I'm using distance formula here. So it's still going to be like my x2 minus my x1 squared plus my y2 minus my y1 squared. But I'm using a different x1 and x2 that I did from the midpoint. So I hope that makes sense to you, like what I'm doing. I'm using, here, let me go ahead and write it over here for us. I'm using the points here, actually. Let me write it out. Let me just write it out in words. So radius is the distance between the center point, which is 1, 2, and either of the other points that we got, but I'll just say 3, 4. So these are now my x1, y1, and my x2, y2 for when I do my formula. I think maybe writing it out is helpful to see. I just don't want you to get confused on why I use different x1, y1 in the midpoint and different x1, y1 or whatever in the distance formula. And it's just because of what I'm finding with respect to. So with the midpoint, I wanted the middle between -1, 0 and 3, 4. But now for my radius, I need the distance between 1, 2 and 3, 4. So that's the idea. So just be careful. So this is 3 minus 1 squared plus 4 minus 2 squared. Keep on simplifying. I don't need that much space. It'll be 2 squared plus 2 squared. So 4 plus 4 will come up here. So square root of 8. Now I'm not done because I got to write it all into my circle formula. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So this is my h and my k. So I get x minus 1 plus y minus 2 equals, and it would be square root of 8, because that's my radius, squared. So x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals, that would just be 8. And this is my equation of my circle. Now, if you had found the distance between -1, 0 and 3, 4, you would have been finding the diameter. That's fine, you just have to remember to divide the diameter by 2 to actually get the radius. So you'd have to divide it by 2 before you plug it into the formula. So I think we're good there. If you have any questions about anything in this section, as always, just let me know. But that is all for us in this video, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.